So here's what probably happened. You were in the market for an E46 M3 probably about 2 or 3 years ago. You were like, I want to pay like 10 grand for a nice E46 M3, maybe even an LCI model, but you were just like, eh. And then all of a sudden, people started realizing that the E46 was way better than the E36. And the prices started to skyrocket. These cars went from like 10 grand to 20 grand within like 6 months. So basically what happened was you thought you were going to get into a nice E46. The prices went way up. You couldn't get into one for a couple years, and now you're looking again because the prices are starting to come back down. Well, I've come to tell you firsthand that the prices aren't even that cheap yet, but there are some deals to be had. However, you need to make sure you know what you're looking for when you're looking for these cars. They're 20 years old at this point. A lot of things can go wrong with them, so I'm going to give you a quick rundown on what to look for when you're shopping for your new to you E46 M3. There are a couple problems that seem to plague almost every E46 M3, and this starts with the rear subframe. These crack on almost every E46, okay? So you got to make sure that this has been addressed before you purchase it. You do not even want to purchase an M3 with a cracked rear subframe because often this repair costs almost as much as the car, right? You're going to be spending like 10 grand trying to fix this repair on top of the original cost of the car. You don't want to do that. You want to make sure that the cooling system has been looked over. Again, with these early 2000s BMWs, they come with a lot of plastic under the hood, and this can be seen heavily in the cooling system. You have plastic radiator, plastic coolant hoses, plastic everywhere, right? And with the heat of this high revving straight six, you know that plastic is going to become brittle after a while. You want to make sure that the Vanos solenoids have been taken care of. With these cars, the Vanos or the VTEC, the variable valve timing solenoid, tends to go bad. This can be an expensive repair for the solenoid itself. The solenoid itself is around like $1,000, so you want to make sure that this has been taken care of before you get into one of these cars. The E46 was also prone to rod bearing failure, but this was only for the pre-LCI versions, which were from the years 2001 to 2003. You do not want to get into a car with rod bearing issues. It's going to be a complete engine teardown. It's going to be a mess. It's going to be a whole headache, right? Fortunately for you guys, these cars are getting to the age where most of the rod bearing issues actually have been taken care of. There are very few of these running around that haven't had the rod bearings taken care of. The engines did have a 100,000 mile 10-year warranty on them for the rod bearings, so most of them actually have been taken care of by the factory. But you still want to make sure that if you're getting a pre-LCI model, you look into the rod bearings. Make sure that they were actually looked at, because if not, you could be in for one big repair bill. Also to look out for the early automatic models. Automatic, I'm talking about the SMG versions. The early ZF gearboxes were actually very jerky, very lurchy, not very good. So in terms of the pre-LCI models, you kind of want to stay away from the SMGs, especially from like the 01s and the 02s, the early LCI models. As the years went on, they actually improved the SMG. When it comes to speccing out your E46 M3, there are lots of things you gotta look for that affect price, okay? You wanna make sure you know whether you're getting into a convertible or a coupe. The convertibles are gonna be way cheaper than the coupes. I don't know, this is because people don't desire the convertibles as much, maybe because it's a rag top. The convertibles go for at least 3 or 4 grand on average, less than a coupe. So you want to keep that in mind. Most people don't like the convertibles. Again, if you're looking for value, the convertible is going to be more valuable just because it's cheaper. You want to make sure you know whether you're looking for a pre-LCI or LCI. Not that many differences between the LCI model and the pre-LCI besides some interior pieces, a little bit of upgrades with the LCI model in terms of interior, different radios. The LCI model did have different tail lights. The old ones use regular bulbs and the new ones use LEDs. They look like grenades. But when it comes down to it, the most expensive models of the E46 M3 are going to be the coupe manual versions, right? An LCI, which is a 2003 or later, so like say a 2005 or 6 coupe manual is going to be the highest, and a pre-LCI convertible SMG is going to be the cheapest. These are going to range from, you can get a convertible SMG high mile pre-LCI for under like 8 grand. You can get them for like in the mid 7s. Or you could go on the other end and get a late model coupe 6-speed manual all the way up in the mid 20s. So these range a whole lot. Another thing I also liked about the E46 M3 was this is the oldest car where I can actually say that the sport mode does something. If you hit sport mode in one of these cars, you can feel the throttle response increase by like 100%. Everything tightens up. The car becomes a lot more responsive and kind of a little bit louder too. But moving on, let's go to Facebook, my first site, and see what kind of deals we have. Again, we're looking for one with around 100,000 miles. We could go a little bit lower than that, but be mindful that these are getting really expensive nowadays. So really anything over 100,000 miles is going to be kind of pricey, especially for an LCI model. Going through the Facebook deals, we have a convertible here, black on red. Most of you guys aren't going to go for the convertibles, but I am here to tell you that these are going to be the steals if you want an E46 M3. If you're trying to get into one now, you want a convertible, you're going to save a lot of money. With the top up, you know, they're kind of ugly, not even going to lie, but with the top down, they look pretty good. They look pretty good, especially with this spec, black on red. With these E46s, anything other than black seats are going to be kind of rare. If you find anything with red seats, brown seats, as with most BMW models, you're going to want to go for those as they're going to be a rare interior spec. They're probably going to fetch a higher price. This one going for $12,900. Oh, it says right here, rebuilt title. Again, you want to stay away from these rebuilt title cars. You don't know what you're getting into. Always get a clean titled car. You're going to get the most for resale, and it's going to be the least headache. All right, here we have it. Less than 15 grand, 110,000 miles, manual transmission, 03. So let's see. This does have LCI tails. It is upgraded. You can see it also has a carbon diffuser. Some nice tasteful mods here. We have, I'm not sure is the style of these wheels, but these are upgraded wheels. This is a pretty clean example, y'all, if I had to say so myself. The silver, the titanium silver, I thought it was a manual, but this is SMG. This is why the price is a little bit lower. A lot of people have a lot to say about the SMG. They don't think it shifts right. They think it's less sporty than the manual. But let's be honest here, the SMG isn't that bad. If you get a good tune on your SMG, you can get rev matching downshifts. It can almost shift faster than a manual for a lot less price. As you can see though, there aren't that many deals on Facebook. Most of these are going to be quite pricey. As you can tell, this one is an 05 with less than 100,000 miles for $32,000. These are some of the cars that never kind of made it out of the bubble. This one's probably been for sale for a long time. I'm not too sure what's going on with the exhaust here, but this is a fully race spec car. As you can see, it has a roll cage. The interior has been gutted, has race seats. This isn't something you'd want. All right, if you want an M3, the whole point of these cars is that they're great dailies, okay? You don't want to pay 32 grand for a 20-year-old track machine. You can buy something way nicer with a V8, more power, faster, handled better for this price, all right? Here we have, this is a good example for a cheap LCI model. However, the miles are very high, okay? 198,000 miles on one of these things is very high. Granted, the E46s do last a long time, but the M3's high-strung S54, I believe, S54. You don't want 200,000 on these unless it has been rebuilt. Luckily, this one does have a recent service. It does say the rod bearings have been done. Again, only with the early models you have rod bearing issues. Pre-LCI, pre-2003, you're going to have the rod bearing issues. So this one has the rod bearings done, has the rear frame or the rear subframe reinforced, new timing chain guides. Pretty much all the expensive repairs have been done on this car. It does have high miles. I would negotiate this to under 10 grand, and I think it would be a steal. Under 10 grand for a sorted out M3, E46 M3, it's going to be a good deal. Even though these miles are going to be kind of high, if it has everything taken care of, the rod bearings, the rear subframe, the vanos, it should be in good shape. But then again, you don't want to pay over 10 grand for something with this many miles. As you can see, these M3s have been going pretty fast. As soon as the bubble popped and people started putting these up for in the teens, they started going fast, and all we have left is the ones that are in the 20s. Granted, these are going to be the nicer examples, but we're shopping on a budget here, so we don't have time for all that. We need the deals. Here we have a pre-LCI model. It has some mods. It has a nice aftermarket front bumper. I'm not gonna lie, I do like these front bumpers. Black car. It has a gray interior. Not big fan of this light gray spec interior, never have been. But this does seem to be an okay deal for a manual, a true 6-speed manual for less than 15 grand with 141,000. If you can get this under 13, possibly in the low 12s, this could be a steal. The back seats look like they haven't been used at all. It's a nice clean car, right? A bunch of owners, obviously, 141,000 miles. But this one has a nice clean interior. This is something that could definitely be an option, but remember with this car, it is a pre-LCI, so you're gonna have a little bit less tech. It's gonna be a little bit older. The interior isn't gonna be as nice. The quality isn't gonna be there. But if you can get this in the 12s, it could possibly be a good deal. Just remember, you have to have all the big issues taken care of. Rod bearings, subframe, vanos. Those are the big three for these, especially pre-LCI. As we can see here, black car, red interior, true 6-speed, convertible, first model year. Don't ever get a first model year, right? These are gonna have all the problems. But here we can see how cheap these can get. 8 grand for a first model year convertible with the 6-speed, 183,000 miles. It says the top won't close, so I'm sure that there are a plethora of other problems with this car. If you can't even get the top to close, then they're probably gonna have all the issues. You're probably gonna have to get the rear subframe looked at. You're probably gonna have to get the rod bearings looked at. You're probably gonna have to get the vanos looked at. You're probably gonna have to get the cooling system looked at. You're probably gonna have to replace the water pump. You're probably gonna do a lot of things, okay? Stay away from these sub 10 grand, high mile, pre-LCI models. Don't be fooled by these hard top convertibles, okay? These look like coupes, but upon further inspection, you can see that it's not a coupe. It has a cap on it. They don't look as good, and you'll be able to tell. This one has 131,000 miles. It says it's a manual. Not too sure. They don't have any interior pics. But for 12 grand, if you can get this for around 10 for a pre-LCI, 131 with a true 6-speed, that would be a good deal as well. Even though it is a convertible, at least they did put the cap on. At least they did paint match the cap. So it doesn't look that bad. As I said before, stay away from cars with mods. This one has wheels, suspension, the cap. Pretty much everything has been done in this car, as you can see. You gotta know what you're getting into, especially with something like that. Moving on to Craigslist, because Facebook just has, these people just want so much for their car. They saw the bubble and they were just like, yeah, let me get 30 grand for my 05 M3. 30 grand? You can get an E92 comp package with less miles than this for less price. It doesn't make any sense. All right, going over to Craigslist. I don't see that many deals on Craigslist as usual. Laguna Seca is always going to fetch a high price. Even this convertible, 17 grand, right? 117,000 miles, dirty convertible. But Laguna Seca, always going to fetch a high price, especially with this gray interior. I've always seen Laguna Secas with gray interiors seem to be the most popular. I'm not sure if that's just how they respect, but if you can find a Laguna Seca with a gray interior just like this, except in a coupe version and manual, that is a $25,000 car right there. But 17 grand for this, way too high. 10 grand. This one could be a steal. It is an SMG, so you got to make sure the SMG is sorted. But most of these SMG cars were babied, to be honest. No one drove the SMG cars like they did the 6-speeds. So you have a higher chance of getting a nice daily functioning vehicle with the SMG. This one actually looks pretty nice. It is a silver with a red interior. That's always going to be a plus. It has high miles though. I didn't even see the miles. 192,000 miles, high miles, high miles, high miles. You do not know what has gone wrong with this car. But hopefully in those 192,000 miles, they got everything fixed. So this is at a dealer. It doesn't say anything about the expensive repairs that we need to look for, so I don't know if I could trust this, but it is a clean looking example. It is a good starting point. 11 grand for one of these. If you can negotiate it down to the 9s or even possibly the high 8s, high 7s, this would be a steal. Even though it has the SMG, still a good deal. I like this spec a lot. We have a carbon black on black 6-speed LCI model, and this one looks nice. I actually really like this. It has low miles. It is carbon black, which is the black blue color. 6-speed. The mods do look tasteful. Some little carbon fiber mods here and there. Interior looks okay. It doesn't look as clean as some other examples, but this spec is a good spec. Black on black 6-speed LCI. 18.4. Pretty high for one of these. With this amount of miles for an LCI 6-speed, I'd expect to pay around 15, okay? If you get this in the 15s, that would be an okay deal. Again, with this many miles, you want to look at the subframe, you want to look at the vanos. You don't have to worry about the rod bearings as much because it is an LCI model. But again, you got to get these things looked at, as this is a high-strung engine and parts can get expensive very fast. So here we have an LCI model that's in the 15s. Unlike the other one was just like 18.5. This one's 15.8 for the same amount of miles, black on black with a manual. It says here that the vanos has been rebuilt. It has a new clutch, but as I said, this car does look a little rough. It has a lot of aftermarket parts. The headliner is not there. It looks like it's partially taken out, so you know you need to be wary of what you're getting into with something like this. Some of the rare colors you want to look for, as I said before, Laguna Seca Blue is always going to be a top spec color. These are going to be sought after forever. The Imola Reds are also going to be sought after. These are very rare. They only came in certain model years, so people are definitely going to go for the reds. The colors that are the most dime a dozen are the silvers and blacks, not the carbon black, just like regular jet blacks, silvers. Those are the ones you're going to see a lot. Moving on to Auto Trader, I see a lot of sub 10 grand, sub 12 grand cars, but they're all pre-LCI and they're all first model year. You don't want to really get into a pre-LCI first model year car. Those are where all the problems are going to be, as I said before. Here we have an 06 convertible for $13,900. It says it's a 6-speed manual. Let's see, most of the people who write these ads actually lie. So, oh, and it only has one picture. This could be a deal, but we don't actually know too much information about the car. And they're probably doing that on purpose, to be honest. Here we have an LCI, an 03, first year of the LCI. Carbon black coupe. Again, you know I love the carbon black. This is a very good example. Has nice wheels, has a nice setup. It says it's a manual. Not too sure. It doesn't have any interior pictures. It does have high miles though. It has 210,000 miles. But this is something you want to look for. It's high miles, but it has everything done. It has the rod bearings replaced. It has the vanos done. It has a custom exhaust, Dynon throttle bodies. The rear subframe has been taken care of. See, this is like a fully sorted car. If you're getting a high mile car, it has to be fully sorted. It has to be cheap. All right, here we have a blue example. $15,900. Price could be a little lower, but I do like the blue. I do like the wheels. It has race seats. It's a 6-speed. Slick top. Remember, these also came in slick top. Slick top and carbon fiber roofs are going to be the rarest options. Has a roll cage. The rear seats were stripped. So this is a proper race car because of all the race options it has, the roll cage, the race seats. I would try to get this down to maybe in the high 13s, low 14s, just using the argument like this isn't a dailyable car, right? They'll probably hit you with, oh well, it's purpose built, da 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 da, but you can probably get that down. It won't pass inspection, so that's definitely a plus in terms of knocking down the price. But as we get out of our price range on Auto Trader, you can see that there's some deals to be had. You definitely have to do your research with these cars because of how old they are and how many things can go wrong with the S54. I wouldn't recommend spending anything under 10 grand because you're just gonna get a piece of junk. But then again, don't spend anything over 15 grand because you're probably just gonna be overpaying. You want to find something in the middle. You want to find something in the sweet spot between 10 and 15 grand for a nice LCI model, whether it be a convertible or coupe. You definitely want a manual with these cars in terms of resale. Manuals are always going to fetch a higher price. Moving on to CarGurus, let's see what deals we have here. I'm sure we can find some cheap examples on here. First one, under 8 grand. Convertible with the ugliest wheels. I don't know who thought these wheels were a good idea, but they were wrong. Terrible, ugly top, terrible aftermarket tail lights. Just everything is wrong with this car, right? Just everything. You got trim pieces that don't fit, headlight washer pieces missing, has an ugly dolphin interior. It's an SMG. It's pretty much the worst spec car you'd ever want, okay? But that's why it's the cheapest car online. $7,900. Seats are worn out. Oh, I hate these gray interiors. They are so ugly. It looks like the inside of a bus. Has some aftermarket paddles. Man, they did the most of this car. How many miles does it have? 124,000. Dang, this car had a hard life. It's not something you want. You don't want anything spec this crazy. It just means that it's probably been deferred on maintenance for a long time. Probably has so many problems they're not even worth fixing. That's why they're just trying to dump the car for a cheap price. All right, let's see if we can find a decently priced LCI coupe. All right, okay, here we have a high mile LCI coupe, automatic. You think that when you start to get into the mid 12s, you'd at least find some manuals, but as I said, CarGurus has the deals initially to get you on their website, but most of the cars are regular price, if not a little expensive. 03 coupe, LCI tails, SMG, 12.9, 134,000. This could be a possible deal. It's nicely spec'd, has some nice wheels. It's a dark gray on black. It does have the SMG, so it's gonna turn some purists away, but it is a good deal. It's decently clean. Relatively low miles, 134, but it is SMG. Could be a possible deal. Here we have an example that is a little too good to be true. 74,000 miles for an LCI coupe, under 14 grand. It is an SMG, but it is gray on black. Always going to be a good spec. Always going to be a desirable spec. This wouldn't be a bad deal right here. It's low miles. You can always do a manual swap later in time if you really want a manual, but for this, 74,000 miles for less than 14 grand for an LCI coupe is a good deal. You have everything checked off except for the manual. I would definitely try to get this into the mid 12s, high 11s for a steal. Here we have another LCI coupe, 122,000 miles for less than 14 grand. This could also be a good deal. One of the last model years for the E46 M3. Plus it's black on black, always a good spec. The only problem is the SMG. Which necessarily isn't always a problem. Some people like the SMG. If you get a nice tune with the SMG, it's actually a nice driving car. It drives like any SMG would. It's a little jerky on the upshifts, but that just comes with the times it was made in. It's just a 20-year-old transmission, that's all it is. But as we get out of a price range, you can see on CarGurus, they have a couple deals, but most of them are going to be a little expensive. Again, another SMG. This one is a 06, last model year made, SMG, blue on black with nav. This is going to be a top spec car if it has nav. 15.5 with 106,000 miles. This is possibly one of the best deals I've seen. It's not Interlagos blue, excuse me, it's carbon black. But if you could get this down into the high 13s, low 14s for an 06 with 100,000 miles, that could be a pretty good deal. These last model year M3s usually go for a premium price as opposed to the rest of them. So if you can get this for in the 13s, that'll be a pretty good deal, especially with resale coming down the line. You could definitely sell a last model year M3 for a little bit higher than every other one. But as you can see on CarGurus, most of the deals are going to be with the SMGs. The manuals are always going to fetch a higher price, not even just on CarGurus, just everywhere in general. The manuals are the car to have. People want the E46 M3 with a manual. The SMG is often just discounted, thrown away. No one really wants to deal with the SMG, even though it's not that bad of a transmission. People always give it flack just because it's not a manual or because it tries to be a manual, but it's not that bad of a transmission, yo. Drive one, you'll see. But as we get up our price range, you can see that CarGurus has quite a bit of deals. You're just gonna have to get an automatic, which could be a problem for a lot of enthusiasts out there, but there's always the possibility of getting it switched up. You can always do a transmission swap. It's pretty easy with these cars. It's already a single clutch, so you just have to get rid of the SMG part and add a clutch pedal. That's it. On to eBay Motors. I already know there are not going to be any deals on eBay Motors. Most of the cars here are going to be way overpriced because a lot of these M3s became garage queens during the bubble and have been for sale for years. Here we have an 06 for 35 grand. That's what I'm talking about. You want the 06. The 06 is going to fetch a higher price. But let's see if we can find anything for under 15 grand. LCI model. Coupe. Nope. And nothing. Not even a single coupe for less than 15. Let's look at this one. I'll look at this one real quick because it is an LCI coupe. It does have really good pictures. Tastefully modded. Has a nice aftermarket steering wheel. The Alcantara. Clean interior. Nice pictures. This would be something you want to go for. Although it is kind of expensive. It is a 2003.5, so they're trying to tell you it's an LCI model. It is a 6-speed, but you can make an offer for like 15. 15, how many miles does it have? 158. Never mind. This should be going into like the low 13s, okay? That's 158,000 miles. eBay, man. They be trying to rip people off. I can't find any deals on eBay. Not a single one. Let's try to find the most expensive one we can find on eBay. Last model year, 2006, white on black with the Alcantara steering wheel. I don't think it's aftermarket. I think it's an option maybe. 6-speed. Last model year. Low miles. 44 grand, 48,000 miles. Not worth it at all. Remember, this is not a fast car, y'all. This is a relatively slow car by today's standards. It handles well. It's a good feel. That's all it is. It's a good feel car, but in terms of performance specs, they're not really there. It's just a good driving car. And for 44 grand, you can get way more performance somewhere else. Wow, 60 grand. This one is a ZCP competition package, 18,000 miles in Imola red. Very highly sought after spec right here. Imola red on black, 6-speed, very clean. 18,000 miles, really can't get any cleaner than this. Latest model year, Alcantara steering wheel, nav, 6-speed, Imola red, black interior. 18,000 miles, 60 grand though. No thanks. Alright, y'all, that's about it for shopping for an E46 M3. As I said before, there are a lot of things you gotta look for when shopping for these M3s. You want to make sure that you find the latest model year you can, as the earlier ones had more problems. The earlier ones had more rod bearing issues. Earlier ones just aren't built as well. They don't have nice LCI parts that you want. They don't have the nice taillights. They don't have the nice interior bits, the nice radio, the nice HVAC controls, all that stuff. You want to find one that has had its subframe looked at. All of these, no matter the model year, pre-LCI, LCI, have subframe issues. After a while, they are going to develop hairline cracks, which can develop into bigger issues later down the road. You could wreck your car, you could die. All right, fix your subframe. Get your Vanos looked at. All right, your Vanos solenoid is basically your VTEC. It controls the variable valve timing on your car. You're gonna have low horsepower and the low RPMs, right? You're gonna have a rough idle. It's gonna be bogging. You'll know when your Vanos is messed up. It's not gonna have power in all the RPM range like it usually does. You wanna make sure you get your water pump looked at. That along with the rest of the cooling system. There's a lot of plastic in these cooling systems which tend to get brittle and break after a while. As with most early 2000s, mid 2000s BMW models, you just want to make sure you get the cooling system overhauled before you do any real driving. But that's it for now, y'all. Remember, this car is going to go down in history as one of the best cars BMW ever made. The S54 with its 8,000 RPM redline is hands down one of the most fun engines to rev out. It's one of the most pleasurable driving experiences. There's something to say, like, people sleep on high revving naturally aspirated cars. It's all turbo now, everything is about power numbers, but drivability is something people often forget about, and that's why the E46 M3 is going to go down in history as one of the best BMWs ever made. But just remember, y'all, you got to look for the subframe, you got to look for the Vanos, you got to look for the rod bearings. You want to make sure that this car is properly sorted before you get it, because there are a lot of issues that come with age. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, y'all. Let me know what car you think I should review next, and y'all have a good one.